Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum to anyone who may be listening to this short video, and hello to anyone else who may be tuning in as well. In this video I'm going to be continuing with the subject of what to do when you're searching for a spiritual guide and you happen to fall into the trap of someone who is somewhat like a psychopathic narcissist. A lot of people end up hating religion because it provides quite a good hiding place for hypocrites and people who have quite negative tendencies, but they mask that behind a veneer of looking saintly. Last video I was talking about how, according to specialists and people who have researched this subject, they say that these kinds of charlatans are usually of above average intelligence. They're often very well educated, very well read, and a lot of the time nowadays these kinds of people study psychology as well. They're very interested in the workings of the human mind so that they know how to manipulate the mind. One of the things that can happen to a person when they enter into the circle of a fake spiritual guide is that they will immediately be made to feel completely worthless. They will be made to feel that everything that they were and everything that they knew up to the point of meeting the guide has no value, and that their value as a seeker of knowledge and as a human being is going to be provided to them from scratch by the guide. So when somebody enters the circle of one of these guides, they will find that this fake guide has around them a whole network of people who are actually, in today's language, could be called enablers. They have a vested interest in supporting the fake guide's movement and promoting the fake guide, and so often around the guide there is this kind of hierarchy of people who often fight to be on the inner circle that is surrounding that guide. So when someone signs up to one of these circles in genuine search of knowledge, and they've been told perhaps a lot of good things about this person, and of course most knowledge seekers are people that are sincere. If you are looking for the truth and the truth means a lot to you, then of course you're most likely to have a tendency to be a sincere person and to expect sincerity in return. But what can often happen is that someone enters into these circles and they find that there are many kinds of rules and regulations in place, some that are not easy to make sense of, but it's almost as if the fake guide has created around them a world unto itself, a universe unto itself, that is apart or separate from the world out there, so to speak. And when someone enters this circle and perhaps they give bay'ah, or they make a pledge of allegiance, or they make a commitment, or they just desire to follow this person and commit themselves as a follower, they will find that actually before they can gain the knowledge that they are seeking, that the guide will first of all set up a dynamic within the seeker-guide relationship which ensures that the guide is always the one who is calling the shots, so to speak. The guide is always the one who is in control. And the guide is supposedly the one who can tell the seeker the truth about the seeker's own self. Of course, I mean, everybody's looking for someone to give them knowledge about themselves, to give them some kind of reading and assessment about themselves so that they can improve themselves as a person, to know their weaknesses and their strengths, and so that they can work on that. But usually one of the red flags when someone enters into the circle of a fake spiritual guide is that they will be negated right from the start. Their worth as a person is going to be rendered null and void, so that they feel that they have to then start to work to gain some kind of worth as a person. And then so they enter into the psychological game that this guide is playing with them, and this is a kind of, I suppose, cat and mouse game where the guide sets up eternally moving goalposts, and this person is never quite able to reach the goalpost. So they are entering into a dynamic where they are trying to uncover their own worth as a human being, but they never seem to be able to quite reach that point of realization of their worth. And that's because they have entered into a power dynamic where it's in the interest of the guide as a narcissist or as a psychopathic narcissist to always keep their followers on tenterhooks, to always keep them questioning themselves, to always put doubts in the minds of their followers about themselves, and also to set themselves up as the only savior of these people. This is very common as a trait among psychopathic narcissists. If you look up online about the traits of psychopathic narcissists or covert narcissists, one of the games that they play, and again, this is not just spiritual guides, it can be writers, artists, teachers, even sports coaches. One of the things that they do to perpetually torment those under their control is to set up impossible goalposts, or goalposts that are constantly moving or shifting. And often they will, again, torment their follower or the person they're supposed to be guiding by, again, playing this kind of psychological game, which is that just as the seeker feels they are about to attain that particular goal or that particular achievement, the fake guide will say, "Oh, look at that, you made a mistake again, I'm sorry, you've done it again, and you're not going to be able to be awarded the prize for reaching this particular goal that I've set up for you." So when you do seek a spiritual teacher, I mean, nowadays it's very difficult to find a real spiritual teacher. A lot of the time, these people who market themselves as spiritual teachers or even as life coaches have learned to master a lot of emotional and psychological game playing. If you feel that you have entered into some kind of spiritual contract with a teacher or with a spiritual guide, and you feel that you've kind of entered a parallel world where the rules of the guide are everything, and that the rules of the wider society are kind of irrelevant, and that in order to supposedly get somewhere in life or on your journey, you have to abide by the rules of this guide, not question them, and not only that, but try to work out what they are so that you can abide by them. if you find that you've entered into a little bit of a strange world that is run according to its own often arbitrary regulations, then this is one of the signs that you have entered into this net, psychological net that has been set up and woven by this con artist. It's been woven by this charlatan. Why does the charlatan set up this net in which to trap people and in which to torment them? Well, as they say on the many videos on YouTube about this, it's all about power. And someone who is a covert narcissist or psychopathic narcissist must have total control over their surroundings. And to do that, they create their own world where they have total control. And they separate themselves off from the outside world because most times they're going to be sussed out by somebody. Most times they're not going to be able to fool everybody. And so they create a separate world from the society where they are king or they are queen, and everybody has to play by their rules. Of course, again, as I had said in the previous video, these people are often very charismatic, very charming, very funny, very likable even. You know, they don't look like they are sadistic or cruel people. They look like the kind of person you would want to spend time with, and certainly learn from them. And you know, they can often look like very admirable people. Everybody's looking at them with this admiration, so there must be something to admire, right? But as I said, if you are, number one, from the get-go, made to feel that you are not worth anything or worth much as a human being and as a person and as a seeker of knowledge, if you feel your worth as a seeker being denigrated, this is a red flag, and it's time to get out from that person's circle. It's time to extricate yourself from that net. So this is just another tip on how to avoid psychopaths and narcissists and covert narcissists when you are on this path of seeking a spiritual guide. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.